Howdy, folks. Today's video is about argumentative writing and specific writing in general, about how to write good, well-supported body paragraphs. So specifically, the skill we're working on is developing our claims and supplying reasoning and relevant evidence to back up those claims. And so that might include pointing out the strengths or the limitations of some ideas. So this is what we're going to be really working on when we're either planning or specifically drafting our essays in part of this writing process. So our goal here is to write logical paragraphs. Sorry, you can probably hear my dog drinking water behind me. Writing logical paragraphs. And so usually this is how it breaks down. I'm going to say at this point in your writing career, you should have this structure generally not necessarily memorized, but able to recall it and use it pretty well, where you're going to have a topic sentence, you're going to have some supporting ideas and examples, and then you're going to have some analysis of what those supporting ideas and examples mean in regards to your topic sentence, your claim. And when I say analysis, what I'm really talking about is explaining how your ideas connect and defend your overall stance. So your analysis might point back to the topic sentence of this paragraph, but it also might point back to your introduction and say, like, here, remember that thesis that I brought up in my intro? You're going to come back and reinforce that as well in your body paragraphs. The way that I like to think about it, which is just sticks in my mind, is claim, evidence, and reasoning. So it's the exact same as this, but just with some different terms. Claim is what my main idea is. What am I stating? That I'm saying this is true, or I believe this, or this is what this paragraph is about. Then I need to provide some evidence that support that claim, that idea, and then I need some reasoning, some statements that support that really explain how does your evidence support your claim. So as we're doing this, we should really be working to practice some of those verbs, those academic verbs that we've used. So analyze, break something down into its pieces and parts. As we're providing reasoning, we might be analyzing some of this evidence, right? Break it down to its pieces and parts. Interpret, what does this piece of evidence mean? Explain this piece of evidence. Evaluate this piece of evidence. How good of a piece of evidence is this in the context of what we're talking about? All of these are great verbs for you to use and think about as you are providing reasoning for your paragraphs. So let's look at an example. Some examples of examples, because you don't always have time to research and look up information, especially if you're doing like a timed write or something. You need to be able to pull in evidence and ideas, supporting ideas from your own brain. So some things that you can use are historical or literary references. All those books and those history lessons you took in school, how could you use those ideas to back up what you're talking about, right? Maybe there's a scene in Of Mice and Men or a thing you learned in history or science class that you could bring up to support your topic sentence or your thesis. You could bring up some real world examples. If you read the news or if you pay attention to what's going on in the world around you, that is a great thing to use as a piece of evidence. You could do hypothetical examples. So imagine if this was the case and put your reader in this theoretical situation, or even you could use personal examples based on your own experience. Now, I would say in ranking these, I'd say historical, literary, and real world examples are probably the best. They're the strongest because they're not predicated on like theory, something that's not real, or something that's personal experience. Just because something happened to you doesn't mean it's going to happen to everybody, right? So be careful if you're using that personal experience. It can be really powerful, but it also can be off-putting to your audience. If you just end up writing an entire paragraph about me, look at me, look at me, it gets really detracting from your point. So I'd say if you can, lean on these two, but don't be afraid to take a look at hypothetical or personal examples. In fact, the example that I have on this next slide is a great example of a hypothetical use of evidence. So if I have a claim here that basic respect for our fellow man is all but absent today because of an increased interaction with automation, that's what I'm arguing. That's the topic sentence for my theoretical paragraph, right? That because we spend so much time working with automation, that I am less respectful of other people, right? Because I spend so much time ordering things on my phone, I don't actually deal with people face to face, that I am less respectful. The evidence that they provide is this theoretical example, right? Hypothetical. Why treat a machine with kindness? That's a hypothetical question. Like, yeah, why would I go and greet my Roomba every day when I come home? Be like, Roomba, how are you today? Thank you so much for cleaning my floor while I was gone at work. That just doesn't happen, right? I don't show that type of respect for a machine that I expect to do a job, right? It suffers no emotional or psychological damage. In a culture saturated with automation, we get used to treating machines rudely and begin to treat each other rudely, right? That's what he's providing as a piece of evidence to support their claim up here. And then this author keeps going. Now we need to provide that specific piece of reasoning, that analysis that says, why does this piece of evidence truly go back to support this claim? This, of course, leads to all sorts of issues, like the intolerance and incivility in the long run results in the complete degradation of culture. So that's a pretty serious consequence, right? So they have escalated this paragraph very, very quickly. But in the context of thinking about that this author wrote this paragraph in a sea of other paragraphs in 40 minutes. This is one paragraph of 5 paragraphs in a 40-minute essay. That's pretty good. So you can read the whole paragraph here, and I've kind of got it broken down into topic, sentence, evidence, and reasoning, and this author even provided some context before we even got to their main claim and topic sentence. So this is kind of our goal of what our paragraph should look like when we're writing anytime. Do we have a clear context of what we're writing about and why we're writing about it? Do we have a clear claim of here's what we're trying to prove? How am I backing that up? And how am I explaining that piece of evidence that I used? All right, use this as a template. And remember that this takes time and practice, right? Writing is a long, arduous process to sit down and meticulously put out our thoughts in a way that other people can read and understand them. So the more you do this, the better you're going to get at it. Don't expect to sit down and be able to use this claim, reasoning, and evidence format perfectly the first time you sit down. It's a work in progress, right? So always come back to this metacognition cycle. Think about, what do I need to do? What am I good at? What do I need to work on? Plan it, write it, and reflect and revise. Good luck, folks.